turn around as a banker and say to the Federal Reserve, I want money for that. In other words, I'm giving you a transcontinental maglev bond priced at 100. You're going to give me 99. In other words, you're going to discount that bond. In that case, you have nationalized the Federal Reserve. You have forced the Federal Reserve to stop doing what they're doing. What they do now is everything for the bankers, nothing for production.
And let's explain.
Turn yourself on your head, Bernanke. Let's turn Bernanke on his head.
But let's explain. Stop. Let's explain this trick, because this is subtlety. But people don't get it. This is the subtlety to all of this. The media is claiming that they're covertly nationalizing everything. It's the opposite. Private banks, through the private Federal Reserve, working with their revolving door minions in the Treasury, are transferring everything offshore into their coffers. So as things implode, they can buy up goods. So it's a predatory, kind of cannibalistic economy. Okay, so you're really talking about doing the opposite, truly nationalizing it, and then freeing up that power of credit to then turn human dreams loose, and then we'll have literal milk and honey.
Well, yeah, we can certainly get out of a depression and go in the direction of that. The thing is to nationalize the Federal Reserve, to make it a bureau of the Treasury. Right now, everything the Federal Reserve does is decided on by unelected, unaccountable, anonymous bankers, especially in those Federal Reserve districts, right? A couple of weeks ago, Helicopter Ben dumped $1 trillion on the market by buying government securities. That's the Federal Open Market Committee. A lot of people on the Federal Open Market Committee come from these regional Federal Reserve banks. They have never even been approved by the Senate. They're just private bankers usurping this power of bankers over the government. And that's already, I think, it's a terrible thing. So you want to roll that back.
And Limbaugh calls that a free market, having private bankers rob you.
I would say let's stop talking about free markets. I've never seen one. I've never heard of one. I don't think there's been a free market for 5,000 or 10,000 years.
No, but that's the point I'm making, is they keep calling this freedom and capitalism and all of this, and it's not. It's a real economy down here, and above it, these people with godlike financial powers who just create tens of trillions of nothing and buy up whatever they want, and then they call it free market as they tax us to breathe reality into their false reality.
Yeah, when Limbaugh says free market, he means the sanctity of the $1.5 quadrillion derivatives bubble, which is a product of the free market. Remember, the derivatives were illegal from 1936 to 1982. There had been an attempt to corner the wheat price using options in the Depression. So during the New Deal, 1936, ban option trading of agricultural commodities for any reason. So that's a long period when we were doing much better, where derivatives were illegal. Then in 82, it was legalized by Ronald Reagan. Then we get Wendy Graham comes on the scene in 1992. She says we're going to have a safe harbor for derivatives. Then there's a big fight under Clinton. Brooksley Born says we ought to at least make these reportable. And then Larry Summers, who's now running the Obama regime economic line, Larry Summers gets on the phone with Brooksley Born and says, how dare you call for the reportability of derivatives? So with the help of Greenspan and Rubin and Summers and now the current crew, the Geithners and Paulsons and so forth, the idea is that the derivatives have become the center of the economy, but they don't dare say this. They say toxic assets, counterparties, unwind, exotic instruments, complex derivatives, but they generally don't want to say derivatives.
It's the center.
The whole thing is the derivatives.
It's the center of the black hole.
Absolutely.
And then they parade around in priest robes saying, we're the magical Federal Reserve, you can't question us, you're communist, when really they're literally the people feeding everything into their fraud. It's like counterfeiting with derivatives. They just make up crap, and now that it's all falling in, they say, you've got to have your taxes raised to pay for this, and they call that free market, as Obama announces in the Wall Street Journal. They're going to gut the whole tax code to go after even the poorest people with basically no tax exemptions on your house, education, nothing, and then they call this free market.
Yeah. We know how to get out of a depression. You get out of a depression by doing things like, first of all, wiping out derivatives. They were illegal. Make them illegal again. Shred them, delete them, get rid of them. Ban adjustable rate mortgages.
Arrest the bankers.
Stop foreclosures.
Arrest the bankers.
Arrest somebody like Geithner, who was sitting at the Federal Reserve there in New York City and arranged to get that money for AIG, and Paulson from Goldman Sachs, who made sure that the TARP was designed So that the biggest single beneficiary of the TARP so far seems to be Goldman Sachs, his company. So he's got colossal conflicts of interest. This guy Summers also, his role in bringing the derivatives plague into the world. And don't forget Greenspan. So get rid of derivatives. Outlaw hedge funds. AIG is two things. AIG is a hedge fund in London that sells derivatives. Let's never have that again. Let's ban hedge funds. Let's wipe out derivatives. Let's stop foreclosures. You want to stop foreclosures? Easy. Make it illegal. Federal law, no more foreclosures. 5 years or the duration of the crisis.
Or it will continue to infect and create a black hole in what's left of the real economy.
Yeah, then you can work that out
later. And then
later.
it's Stone Age. Stay there, though. And I don't want to hear this as socialism, folks, because $12 trillion of the bankers, that is just highway robbery. Okay, we need to arrest these people, and we have to start thinking about that idea. Stay there, Webster. They're like, oh, we can come on at this time. The poor lady, I've canceled the interview with her about the prison problem twice. I don't want to do it a third time. But we'll have Luke pop in during that last hour for like 5 minutes with her, if he can do it. People all want to know what happened with that. So that's coming up. Go ahead, guys. Call Rob Dew and them. Tell them they're going to be on at 1 today for about 15 minutes with the update from the camps out in California. The tent city's now trying to move them into a camp. So that's coming up. Tarpley's going to be with us till 50 after, and then he's got to go catch his plane. Webster, look, for viewers out there, for people out there that are watching and listening to us right now, if you want to go after the bankers, we can politically all day wait for the next congressional election or try to wait for another president and hope. But I agree with Ron Paul. We have to criminally go after them. They've all broken all sorts of laws. They've involved in so many different types of embezzling and conflicts of interest. And when you start those criminal investigations with grand juries, when you start those indictments, then more and more of them will blow the whistle, and you'll find out the whole crew is as bad as Bernie Madoff or worse. And so I see politically, and by the way, it's a risk to come out and make films and radio shows and say this. These people don't play games because they know this is the most effective thing, is to start beating the drum. Instead of having the bankers that engineered this crisis posing as our saviors, saying new bank of the world, currency, dictatorship, currency control, instead of them getting more power out of the crisis they've created, we need to call for their investigation and indictment, and then that would politically bring them down and identify them as the criminals and the bad guys, and this could be a peaceful, bloodless revolution. Now, I see that as the best chance to end this in a more peaceable manner and not go too much deeper into the depression. Probably not going to happen, but if we try, it could happen, because what they're doing is obviously so criminal and they're so unpopular. 98% are against them in every major poll you look at. Some are even 99%. So that's my basic thrust and my idea to circumnavigate the corrupt political structure, get state grand juries, federal grand juries to go after these bankers. Already a lot of them are falling. A lot of these hedge fund guys and scammers are. Fully discredit them, because if you don't, they're going to expand their takeover through the crisis they've created even more. So, Webster, in your own words, because we're making a film here, restate it, arresting them. They deserve it. This is a way to truly politically discredit them immediately.
I think the possibility of criminal action is certainly there. Let's just go back to the Great Depression of the 1930s. You had these famous Pecora Committee hearings. The guy's name was Charles Mitchell. He was the head of Citibank, the same Citibank that brought you Rubin and Summers and Geithner and the rest of this clique. So Pecora hearings, Congressman Pecora called in this guy Mitchell, and essentially what it was is that Citibank had manipulated stock prices in the crash of 1929. And this got a big public exposure. And that, I think, was a kind of a cultural change, a moment of cultural change when people realized that these bankers had created tremendous crimes. Now, if you look at more recent times, I think the best bet, realistically, is an ambitious politician at the state level. Look at this guy Spitzer in New York State. Now, he actually did quite a number of cases, and that's why they had to get rid of him. They didn't want Spitzer sitting in Albany while Wall Street was going through the situation we have now. Look at Andrew Cuomo. Certainly an ambitious politician, right? Many problems of his own, but he seems to have latched on to AIG. Maybe there are other state attorneys general in other states that would like to join in this, because they'd be performing a very important public service. It's going to take somebody who wants to build a career, right?
Yeah, but let's be clear about Spitzer. It has to be hundreds of counties and grand juries and others moving in unison, or they'll kill them, they'll set them up, they watch them for one thing they do wrong. Spitzer, of course, as you know, had written an editorial in a major newspaper saying this is criminal with derivatives and these banks, we need to go after them. And they said, buddy, you saw a hooker. The FBI has been watching you for years.
Right.
We've been watching your bank account. We're going to bring out even the details of the dirty stuff you did with the hooker. I mean, as if that wasn't an obvious political hit. That was also a message to everybody going into their takeover that you mess with us, we're going to bring any skeletons out of the closet.
Right. But I think now the rising populist economic rage against these Wall Street exploiters and raptors and so forth, the hedge fund hyenas, I think that we're going through a cultural shift where the possibility of actually doing something in this direction. I would go back and look at the Greenspan Federal Reserve. Look at the clique that imposed derivatives.
All right, stay there. I'm not going to interrupt when we come back. I want you to restart everything you've just said and then bring